Hey there, it's Trevor Sines from Michigan Mortgage Solutions, and I've got an absolutely mind-blowing story that's going to change how you think about home buying. Ever heard someone say you could buy a home for less than leasing a car? Well, buckle up because I'm about to show you how David Mudrack did exactly that. You're probably thinking, yeah, right, there's no way, but stick with me here because this is going to blow your mind. David just snagged an amazing 1,380 square foot home in Algonac, Michigan. We're talking 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, full basement, attached garage, nice yard, the whole package. He used a USDA rural development loan to buy a $166,000 house, and here's the crazy part. He only needed $1,510 total to move in. Yes, you heard that right. That includes everything. Now check this out. His monthly mortgage payment, $1,613 per month. Now you want to know something that's really wild? Similar rentals in the same area were going for $1,800 a month. And get this, those rentals wanted the first month's rent plus a $2,700 security deposit just to move in. I mean, come on. David became a homeowner for $3,000 less than it would have cost him to rent a similar home, and he's saving $180 every single month. That's over $2,000 a year in his pocket. Plus, with every single payment, he's building equity and his house is appreciating. This is a no-brainer. I can't think of why anybody would rent when the math works out this good to own. Now, let's dive into the juicy details of David's closing disclosure here. And I promise, this is where it gets really interesting because the majority of homebuyers have never seen something like this before. It's the document that you get when you close on a house. So look at this right here. He bought the house for $166,000, but the actual loan amount was $167,676. Now, why the difference? So here's a little insider secret. USDA loans have this 1% upfront guarantee fee, but instead of making David pay it upfront as part of his closing costs, because who needs more out-of-pocket expenses, right? We rolled it into the loan, which is a pretty sweet deal. His interest rate landed at 6.75%, making his monthly principal and interest payment $1,087.54 per month. Now, when you add in all the other stuff that's included in your payment, your property taxes, your home insurance, and then USDA has a monthly mortgage insurance, his total monthly payment comes to $1,612.57. But here's the part that's going to make your jaw drop. David's total cash to close when he came to the closing table was just $869.71. No, that's not a typo. There was no massive down payment, no sneaky hidden fees, just straight up a simple mortgage transaction with the USDA rural development loan. Now let me break this down piece by piece because this is where people usually get lost in the weeds. So let's run through these fees in this closing disclosure just like we were having coffee together. First up, let's talk about what our mortgage company got paid. It's right here under lender paid broker compensation. The best part here is that the lender pays us and not you. In most of the loans that we originate, our lender partners will pay us for you to do your loan with them. But here are the other lender-related fees, which include the appraisal fee. In David's deal, he paid about $640 out of pocket, which was due when the appraisal was ordered. Next, you'll see some small admin fees coming in at just under $250, and these are pretty much standard fees you'll see on every mortgage, credit report, things like that. And then remember that USDA fee we talked about earlier? The one that's wrapped into the loan so there's no upfront out-of-pocket costs? That's what this is right here. Next, we're going to move down here to the title company fees, and I want to tell you about something that most buyers don't know. You can actually shop around for your own title company, and sometimes there's a reason to do that. Now, in this case, David used Huron Title, which had very reasonable fees. His closing fee was $500 flat, and then there was just title insurance at $858. Now, pay attention here because this is a money-saving tip. Title insurance is going to be pretty much the same no matter which title company you use because it's a percentage of the loan amount. So it's pretty standard. But when it comes to the other fees like the closing fee and then extra admin charges that some title companies charge, some of them will nickel and dime you to death. I've seen companies charge as much as $650 for the closing fee plus add a bunch of other small fees ranging from $50 to $175 each. So here's the deal. If you see a closing fee over $600 plus a bunch of other add-ons, find a different title company. That's your money they're trying to take from you, and you want to keep as much of it as possible when you're buying your first house. Just because you're going to need that money for other things like moving or furniture or possibly even appliances. You never know. Now, every time you get a mortgage, there's going to be some recording fees at the county recorder's office. These aren't large fees, but it's good that you know about them. First of all, they need to record a deed, which is basically says who owns the property, and that's about $35. And then they need to record all of the pages of the mortgage document that gets created. Every county charges a different amount per page, but that amount's going to range probably anywhere from $35 to $100, which is really small potatoes compared to what we're about to get into next. So this next section, this is where the bigger numbers come in, and it's pretty much probably 70% of your closing costs. But don't freak out, because I'm going to show you how we handled them for David. First up, we've got homeowners insurance. So when you buy a home, you actually have to pay for the first year of homeowners insurance up front. And now in David's case, his monthly payment on the insurance is about $155, but the total on that is about $1,860 for the year. And that's an upfront cost, but hang in there, because I'm going to show you how we helped David cover that fee. Then there's this thing right here called prepaid interest. David closed on February 19th, so he has to pay interest through March 1st. His first payment isn't going to be due until April 1st, but we had to cover the days between the 19th and the 1st of March, and that's where this math right here comes in place. Hopefully that makes sense. Next up, we're going to talk about escrow account setup. This is super important because it's different for every buyer depending on when you close and how much your taxes and insurance cost you. Think of your escrow account like a special savings account for your house bills. But here's the kicker. How much you need upfront to fund your escrow account totally depends on when the tax and insurance bills are due and how much they are. For example, David closed in February, so the lender needed to collect 3 months of homeowners insurance in order to have enough money there when it becomes due in 12 months from now, as well as 5 months of winter tax payments to pay the winter tax bill in December, and 9 months of summer tax bills to pay the summer tax bill coming up here in July. But if you closed in, let's say, August, those numbers would be totally different. The lender always wants to make sure there's enough money in the account when those bills come due. So there's a mathematical formula that goes into calculating how the account gets set up. There's something called an aggregate adjustment that gets added into the escrow account because you can't collect more than a certain percentage. So if you ever want to see exactly how these calculations are done, just reach out and I'll send you the breakdown if you give me a property. Now, when you add it all up, this escrow account setup and these prepaids, we're talking about $2,169 for the escrow setup and $2,171 for the prepaids. That's over $4,000 right there. But don't panic, because I'm going to show you how we get that covered for David and how you can get it covered for yourself. But next here, I really want to warn you about something that catches a lot of buyers off guard. I'm talking about tax prorations, which are pretty much the sneakiest fee in any mortgage transaction, and nobody seems to mention these fees, or at least accurately mention these fees, until the last minute. In Michigan, we've got this unique tax setup that can definitely throw you for a loop if you're not prepared. So in most counties, our taxes are paid in advance. So what that means is that when you pay the tax bill, the summer tax bill in July, it pays through July of next year. And when you pay the winter tax bill in December, it pays through December of next year. And here's the tricky part that most agents and lenders don't explain up front. When you buy a house, you actually have to reimburse the seller for those taxes they've already paid in advance. It's like buying into their tax subscription, if you will. In David's case, his winter taxes from February 19th through December 1st came in right around $200. His summer taxes from February 19th through July 1st were $880.19. That's an extra $1,000 that David would have had to come up with out of pocket if he hadn't planned for it. And let me tell you, I've seen these prorations hit buyers hard, especially in areas with high property taxes. Now, it really depends on your loan officer and how accurate they are, but a lot of times you don't find out about the actual true tax proration numbers until about a week away from close, because that's when the title company gets involved and starts balancing things with the lender. And I'm talking about thousands of dollars that pop up just 7 days prior to close. Talk about a nasty surprise when you're already stressed enough about moving and buying your first house. But here's how we outsmarted this sneaky fee. We anticipated it and built in a $6,000 seller credit into the purchase agreement right from the start. If you don't know what a seller concession is, it's where the seller is giving you a portion of their proceeds from the sale to go back towards your closing costs, and it's a dollar for dollar value. So getting $6,000 in seller credit or seller concession gives David $6,000 back in his pocket to go towards his closing costs. And that's why David only needed $869 to close on his loan. That's pretty slick, right? So let me show you how we made all these numbers work in David's favor, and more importantly, how you can avoid any last-minute surprises in your own deal. His total closing costs look scary at first. We're talking about $2,169 for escrow setup, $2,171 for prepaids, about $1,000 in those sneaky tax prorations, plus all the other fees that we talked about. But watch how we made this work. We got that $6,000 seller credit. That was key. Plus, we got an additional $233 lender credit. We also chose a strategic closing date to minimize prepaid interest, and we shopped for a reasonable title company. Final cash to close, like we said before, just $869.71. Now here's the thing. Most people think that they need thousands and thousands of dollars to buy a home. But as you can see from David's case, that's not always true. The key is knowing what to expect and planning ahead. Ready to see how these numbers would look on your dream home? Here's the fun part. Start by finding a house on one of the directories that you love, like Zillow, Redfin, or Realtor.com. Think about it like window shopping at the mall, but for your future home. Once you find that perfect place, we'll use those exact numbers to create your practice purchase. Now here's what we do in your practice purchase. We'll run a soft credit check that won't ding your score at all, but it will give us all of your debt data and your mortgage credit score. Super important that we have that score because the scores that you see online, like through Credit Karma and things like that, are your consumer credit score, totally different than your mortgage credit score. So we'll look at that, and then we'll also look at your actual numbers from your income, the debts we got from that soft credit pull, and the whole picture. We'll create a detailed fees worksheet just like what we went through here on David's deal and show you exactly what you'd pay out of pocket and monthly. No surprises. You'll know everything you need to know. We'll find the best loan options for your situation and calculate your real monthly payment. Now the best part, this is completely free, and it's the same process we used with David to make sure he knew exactly what he needed before making his offer. Why wait and wonder? Click below to book your practice purchase, and let's see if you too can own your own home for less than renting or less than leasing a car. And I promise you, it'll be without any of those nasty late-minute surprises. We're ready to help you at Michigan Mortgage Solutions. All you gotta do is click that button, and we're happy to help.